Welcome to AI Podcast with Zach. From expert tips and the latest trends to must-hear guest insights, ready to future-proof your brand?
To kind of get things started, you've been a teacher for about 13 years, give or take?
Yeah, 13 years.
Wow. And you've always been on the island?
No, not at all. So my teaching career, well, if I back up, after university, I actually lived in Ireland it was going to be 6 months, but I stayed for 3 years and worked over there. Loved it, but came back. Always thought I wanted to be a teacher, but I wasn't sure till you actually try it, right? And anyway, once I got in my practicum, loved it. And my degree was in history and women's studies. So I always had a feeling I would love to teach history, but I just felt too young when I had finished university to be a teacher. I don't know. So and then I went to UVic for that, and then came back, and Vancouver Island University has a really good education program. So I did a post-bac degree there. And then after I graduated, there were no jobs for teachers in BC. So these recruiters came from some Canadian schools in China. And they have BC curriculum schools over there. So you can get your years of experience. And again, I thought I would go for a year and I ended up staying and teaching over there for 6 years. And I loved it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is super cool. And where in China were you located?
So my first year, I went to a city called Dalian.
Okay.
And near to Korea, South Korea, and North Korea, actually. And I was there for 1 year. And then my next year, I applied and got a job in just outside of Shanghai, in between Shanghai and Suzhou. And I really, really loved that school. Ended up staying there for 5 years. So I loved it. So, and I was teaching BC curriculum. So, and it was just a really great community and lifestyle there. I got to travel a lot, traveled to a lot of, we got really good holidays, Christmas and Spring Festival, Chinese New Year. And so I really loved it. And then I ended up taking a year off and I lived in France. So that was really good. I got my French back. It was a good experience. And then I came back to BC and I ended up teaching again. I could have probably gotten a job as a TOC, teacher on call, fairly quickly. But after living abroad and everything, I just wanted to work 5 days a week and get a better income. So I ended up taking a job up north, British Columbia. Only about halfway up though. 2 hours.
Like Terrace or Campbell River?
In between, Smithers and Prince George, a small town called Burns Lake. So I taught there for a year. That was a great experience, but I'm an island girl, as you said. So I found the winter a bit challenging. And then I ended up moving back to Vancouver Island. And I got a job I got lucky, and there was a position in Qualicum Parksville School District, and I got a job there, and been there ever since, and really liking this school as well. COVID years were obviously tough, but I started in 2019 there, the fall of 2019, so I kind of got to see, what that school was like pre-COVID and everything. So, it's the last few years have been tough as a teacher.
You've been busy.
Yeah, I am a little bit busy. But
so were you born in on the island as well, or were you born on the east coast of Canada?
Oh, yeah, I was actually born in Alberta.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I lived there until I was about 8 years old. Lived in Edson, Alberta. My parents are Irish, so they immigrated to Canada from Ireland. My dad was a family doctor, so we stayed there until my parents always came to Vancouver Island for holidays in the summers and stuff, and loved it. So a job came up for my dad in Ladysmith. So we lived here ever since 1991. They lived here. So
Ladysmith. Someone from Ladysmith. Oh, it's a celebrity or something from Ladysmith.
Oh, Pamela Anderson.
There we go. I've heard the
Love
name.
her.
Yeah. No, that's pretty awesome because same thing for us. We grew up going to Vancouver Island every summer, Colquhoun Beach, Parksville. It
Nice.
was it's a vibe out there.
Yeah, it's a good place to live, you know. Really grateful. Yeah, really lucky that that it worked out because sometimes, teachers can be, teachers on call for a while before you find a position or a school that works well for you. So, yeah, no,
Is teachers on call the same thing as a substitute teacher? Would that be the same?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
we say, yeah.
Is that slang now? Substitute? Oh.
You can really, yeah. So the kids would say substitute sometimes, but yeah, we always say it's actually teacher teaching on call. So it's a TTOC is the proper term
That
now.
sounds pretty fancy and urgent at the same time. Very
Yeah.
serious. TTOC. We need a TTOC. No, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So how did this happen? So you're going through the pandemic.
Yeah.
Things are tough, challenges, just like many
Mhm.
folks from all over. Right? We all went through it. How did you kind of dive into the AI world? How did that come about? And then where did you realize, you know what? Not only am I diving into this and saying, wow, there's some value here, I can actually teach this and provide this as solutions for others to know.
Yeah, so it happened, I remember in the fall of 2022, there were rumblings about AI starting like September, October. And so, but what I had my initial hearings was about, students are going to cheat and that kind of stuff. And I just was kind of like, I don't think it's probably as big of a deal as people are making of it, but I literally knew nothing about it. Like, I also assumed that it was not quite available for everybody yet, kind of like how the internet was, right? Like I figured, okay, it's going to be expensive or like top, business people who can afford it are going to have it. But then over the Christmas holidays, I remember just relaxing kind of on the couch and I was kind of, it's December, that break can be stressful sometimes for high school teachers in the sense that they're going back in January and it's the last month of the semester. So, there's assessments, chasing kids down for work,
Yeah.
wrapping up all the loose ends. So I was kind of like, God, and I had some tough subjects that I needed to teach in my History 12 class, it was at the time, like genocide, for example. And I was like, how do I approach this?
Is that Rwanda? Would you guys be talking about Rwanda specifically?
We did talk about Rwanda, yeah. Ended up doing a choice board presentation. So the students would choose one from a list and then they would teach the class about their genocide. So yeah, and some other tough topics were left to finish, like the end of the Cold War and those things. So and I've been teaching those subjects for a while, but yeah, like I'm always that kind of looking for a new way of doing things. Okay, this didn't work last year. So yeah, I was on the couch December 2022 and on Twitter, and I saw this tweet that was like, teachers, you got to try this. And it gave a prompt that was like, create a lesson plan about X, make sure you include an introductory activity or like a hook, as well as an outline for a lesson plan, a rubric, and a student task, something like that. Oh, and discussions for a plenary, which is like British. That's what they say for like a group discussion, which I had. So I was like, okay. And then it's like, they're like, go to chat.openai, make an account. And I did it. And my sister is a teacher as well. And we were hanging out. And I was just like, I'm going to experiment. But I really had low hopes that it would be able to. And I was just, it pushed out a pretty decent lesson plan on I think I probably tried the genocide thing because that's what had in my mind, or 20th century genocides. But whatever it was, I got pretty decent ideas. I was just like blown away right away, and that moment, like I knew this was going to be huge. and then I started learning all this other stuff that, something for me that I always like to do well for students and families is report cards. And it's also something that can take forever if you let it, right? Because we're writing and we're sitting there and we're trying to get ideas. We know what we want to say, but like that was one of my first clicks. Like, I'm sure this can help me do a better job with my report card comments. So that January, I really just was like testing it out. We have like a template or an outline of specific things that, administration are looking for, the BC Ministry of Education are looking for. So I kind of start experimenting with it. And I did some workshops with some teachers online like that January, I think, because I was just so excited about it. And when I went back to work in January, I started sharing with a couple of colleagues, like, you got to check this out. Like, look what I was able to do. And so,
Was it under the table at first, kind of a taboo topic?
it felt
Because
like a
people,
little,
right? Because
it
people
felt
were
like
afraid, and I hear about it in a lot of, well, in corporate Calgary or just in general, people are talking about things and they say, "Oh, have you heard of this ChatGPT thing? Have you heard of this
I
GPT,
know.
this Chatterbox?" Yes, isn't it great? Oh, but I don't know. Our IT people have banned it from our company, and all of these things. And I think, well, guys, don't we want to be more productive?
Yes.
If we're not utilizing it, someone else is, regardless of, it's here. It's not going away.
Exactly. And that's why I had thought back to a teacher at my school had actually sent out an email with a reputable source article about like, teachers, we got to get on top of this. We got to make sure it doesn't infiltrate our education systems. And like, I get it looking back now, why somebody would say something like that for sure, because over the, since it's come around, every teacher has, I can guarantee, for sure at the secondary level, has received an assignment that they have questions whether the student wrote it themselves, right? But that's okay.
Put it through Quillbot and you'll be good, or one of the AI detectors. But even then,
that doesn't work. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work.
No, they are. There's don't you if any teachers are listening, I wouldn't. It's a waste of time because they're not accurate, and even the AI maker or people who know this stuff admit that it has biases against neurodivergent people for sure, English language learners also. So those detectors, they really don't work, and I was guilty of using those at first because I thought they did work, and sometimes they work for plagiarism detectors work because they can, see where that exact phrase has been on the internet.
And then it can search the World Web and find it and say, okay, exactly, this is where it came from. That.
Yeah.
Or sorry, was all of this year that it happened, or was it last year? So was it 2024 January?
So 2023. So in that January when I came back and I had learned, started experimenting, I showed a couple of teachers what I was able to do. And then I was also able to put together some presentations, because you can ask, right? Can you give me an outline for a presentation on X? And at the beginning, ChatGPT would be like, oh, I can't make presentations. Sorry, I can't do that. But then you learn, like, if you prompt it, oh no, I just want to outline. And then can you give me the content for the lesson? And then you can just kind of copy and paste into the Google Slides. But anyway, so a few of my work besties, they were really intrigued. And one of them and I, we taught the same course. So I was like, this is what we could do for Social Studies 10, one of the same courses. And he was like, that would be, and he was just so into it. So long story short, we decided to every year and like sometimes semester, as teachers, we're allowed to have a collaboration group. So where we meet with other teachers like bi-weekly to learn something relevant to education. So we put together a collaboration group for learning about AI.
So cool.
And it was super awesome because the five of us, we all like brought something different to the table. We could say, okay, you search like gamma was a great one that we played around with that first 6 months for making slides presentations. Like we were amazed with that. There was another one called Gnome.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And then we started finding all these other more teacher specific ones, like, well, and something like, I don't know if you've heard of Quizlet, but that's like a flashcard. Started out as just a flashcard website for students, but you could make vocab lists and have banks of content. And I was using that since like 2011.
Oh, wow. Okay, now it just hit me for a second. That's been around forever, Quizlet.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
been around for a long time. So I have an account. I think when I look back, it's either 2011 or 2012 that I had it. So, but they started adding all these cool new AI features as well. So, and they have like an AI powered tutor on there now. They use spaced repetition, other like scientifically proven study techniques through the power of AI.
Did you get a lot of backlash though from some of the teachers or the educational system itself?
No, you know what? Like you were saying earlier, it did feel like a little clandestine at the beginning. Like, oh my gosh, this is so good to be true.
Yeah.
Like, we should share this with everybody. Like,
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying, because I'm in that, and not in the teaching world, but I'm in a different world, and I thought, wow, I got the secret weapon, I got the secret sauce. This is like in a good way. Like this is so cool that it could catapult things, and I could expedite things. What made you kind of pivot and say, you know what? I need to kind of pioneer this and help lead it, because when I think about AI teachers or folks like yourself, you're the one that comes to mind.
So there's this man, his name's Dan Fitzpatrick. He's called the AI educator, and he was like on it. He wrote a book like right away of all the different ways, and a couple of the colleagues who were in that collaboration group bought it. And then, but I was like following him online. A number of us bought the book, so we shared it. We got funds, and we told our principal about it. But yeah, there was an ask to get funds for some of our meetings. We actually took extra days. Like we get about a day and a half worth of professional development from our union. So we used all those days. And so Dan Fitzpatrick was a great leader. Like he was really like, you're going to help your students learn.
Is he Canadian?
He's British, actually.
British. Okay. Yeah.
And he had an EdTech podcast for a while before that. So, but he was just really just ahead of the game. So I learned so much from him. I still learn a lot from him. I've also been part of a Google educator group, working on getting certified, but I just haven't done it yet. But I've done on the training. Like I just need to take the test, but they send a lot of things that are like, up to date. But yeah, Twitter, was just a good place at the beginning to find stuff. It's a little like oversaturated now, but, and so that's kind of what's inspired me to start the Instagram, was like, cause I'm not really like a big, normally social media person. Like I don't even like post a lot on my personals, but I was just like, this is too good. Like I got to share this with more teachers. We need to stop these myths. And like you were saying, like about backlash at the beginning. And I still get some teachers who, because I've done a few workshops at my school, and I just did one in my district to help teachers learn about AI, but, and I did a report card writing comment workshop. So there is some feeling in the, education world that it is cheating to some extent. And I really want to fight these myths because they're just ridiculous.
I always say it's like Google came after the yellow pages.
Right.
There's a horse and buggy. Right. Now we drive a vehicle. With the combines here in Alberta for farming, back in the day, it was a plow and a horse. Exactly. So things evolve. And okay, great. I can get to a place faster with a vehicle versus a horse and buggy. Is that cheating?
Yeah, exactly.
I know what they're trying to say, though, in education. But I mean, if we're not going to do it, the world's already doing it. The students are doing it.
And yeah, like the statistics show, like most teachers work like 50 hours a week at least. So many teachers are working over what they should be. They're burnt out. And in that December 22, I was starting to feel a bit burnt out because I'm in BC anyways. So if there's 4 courses a semester, to be 1.0, you need to teach 7 out of 8 for the year. So 6 months. And like right now, for example, like I'm teaching 4 out of 4 subjects. So people don't realize like I am teaching from as soon as I get there till as soon as I leave. So for me, it's like and my first few years of teaching, like I really did think that's what teachers are supposed to do. And I taught English my first few years. So, or 6 years. So I thought, that's what we do. We go home, we mark our butts off, and we just do everything and everything. And it's not sustainable. That's really what it is. Like, and the way that a lot of teachers, I can't remember the exact number, but many teachers quit within their first 5 years because of
I've heard that.
the workload, right? Like, and so AI, when it came along, I was like, yes, this is going to save me time. And a lot of times teachers, we are smart enough. We know our subjects. We have the ideas. It's just executing them and all those administrative things along the way that we need to do in order to get them there. So like AI is literally, in my opinion,
It's the way
for education. It's like, we need to role model for our students. Like, I think in a few years, we're going to regret that we're not teaching students. We're not embedding AI education more in all our classes. So, and the students know, like, I'm into it, but I talk about it all the time with students. I have an AI policy with them. Yeah. Like, I'm super transparent. I'm like, yeah, I made this presentation with AI. Isn't it cool? Like, look at all my images match my theme exactly. Like, it's interesting to look at, like, and they are more engaged by those visual and techie things. So, yeah.
Well, it's so true, though. I mean, when I think about these kids, when they have their teacher that's open about this and transparent, it gives them the ability to be creative with that and go home and try it out without feeling like they're a bad person or they're cheating. It's not about that. And like you said, what was that presentation app that you brought up, the first one, the website? Gamma.
Mm-hmm.
Like something like that. If they can use it to their advantage, it's not the normal way of teaching or the normal way of learning, but guess what? It's going to be super cool to see how far they push that envelope, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And like the creativity and the critical thinking, right? Because as well, and for you to be in order to be able to engage with a AI chatbot, you have to be able to know how to follow up, how to prompt, how to talk to it, how to speak conversationally, use good manners. Like, but yeah, like, even recently there was, there's like a grant application for a zero waste management program, like within our district, sponsored by our municipal government as well. And there's money to be had with it, but also different things. So, trips or just the financing for things. So it's like a big chunk of money. So to the students, I was like, well, I looked for ideas that would be different than what they have on the list, maybe like have teach students how to have a waste-free lunch or no, sorry, that was one of the ChatGPT ideas. But anyways, like I was like, I just asked, hey, there's this project, I'm gonna get some money for it. Can you help me create ideas? Like, I love it for brainstorming.
Oh, I do it all the time on my phone, or if I'm walking around, I almost use it more than Google these days.
Oh yeah,
it's incredible. I'll ask it questions that I'm wondering, like, where, I don't know, this, say like a tire or something, whatever it is, or this plant. What do you think this plant is? And it'll give me an idea. So now I can start like looking around. I don't know. It's so neat. Do you get this a lot though? People are worried that people are not going to be able to think for themselves. The lack of critical thinking. I'm sure you've heard that before.
Yeah. Well, I would disagree because I think it's made, like for me anyway, it's helped me be a better critical thinker because like, and for example, like I'm getting all these, advertisements and messages on LinkedIn. Like, there's so many companies that need people to be able to train AI. So for example, like if you, I believe that when you're having a conversation with AI, the better of a critical thinker you are, the better you're going to do. So it's like developing my critical thinking skills. Like, for example, when sometimes you ask it something and it gives you two choices and it says like, which one do you think is better? But yeah, I think it's helping students like actually become better critical thinkers and for my assignments anyways, like I think it is going to change how we do assessment. Like, for example, in the past, asking students to find facts about a topic and then share the facts to the class would be enough.
Go to the encyclopedia and find one.
Yeah, exactly. But now, like to all my classes, I'm like, I'm not like I've just changed how but I was doing this before AI even came along. Like, I'm more interested in your opinion about it, your analysis, your questions, your observations. So like teachers have been trying to embed critical thinking in their classes already. for, forever. But yeah, I think that AI is going to help develop critical thinking skills. But I can see that side of the argument in the sense that, oh, I'll just get ChatGPT to make it. But that result that the AI made for you could be better if you had the critical thinking skills in order to prompt it to give you something better. So, I don't know. I think it's helpful.
I agree. And for the people that are not utilizing AI yet, it has grown from when you had started in January 2022. Well, in December, you started playing with it, but
Yeah.
from that to today, 2023 to today, it has grown exponentially in terms of what it can do. And I mean, if we use it every day to learn and play with it, I mean, now there's got a search feature to it. There's Canvas, there's 4.0, right? There's so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and there's more like competition, and some are becoming free. Or like some features are becoming free. And so like, and then, speaking of Quizlet, there's a lot of other, education solely focused AI tools out there for teaching and learning, that like quizzes is another one. They were around before AI, but since AI has come into play, they have like totally been able to revolutionize their platform to create assessments with AI, create lessons, gamified learning, like all these amazing things. So my point is just, yeah, all these apps, they continue to get better and better. So, and like, don't get me wrong, it's like I do in my classes, like some of my colleagues think sometimes that or if you like ed tech, that's everything I do is technology based. But in fact, like I have gone back, or I've always involved, like try to reading textbook, okay, writing only, like no tech. But when it comes to presenting their ideas or sharing, like it's amazing how students are really enjoying like Canva, for example, and how creative it's making them. And Canva has free accounts for teachers. And then a couple of months ago, I found out that if you have a pro teacher account, you can actually start one at your school and share it with like all of your students.
Okay,
So
that's pretty
that
cool.
is so
Yeah.
cool, because at the beginning of this semester, I remember like showing some cool Canva choice boards that I had made, or things that I had made using Canva, and showed my students. And they're like, "Oh, you have the pro account though, don't you?" Like, but I love Canva so much, I would almost buy the pro. And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, that's a bit much for you guys." But I get it, because you would make something in Canva, you get to the end, and then it's like, "Oh, you have some pro features," and the students would be
Yeah.
frustrated. But once I learned that, like I've had students from around the school who aren't even in my classes join the Canva. I'm like, yeah, just join, share the link with everybody. And so, there's companies like that also see the potential for especially education, and they're like, they could be charging way more than they are. And yeah, like quizzes, Diffit, they just ask for teachers to give feedback on the apps, like so like I've done some, beta testing and things like that for those companies. Gamma had a meeting with me like early on, because they didn't even really envision their app for education. It was more for corporate. But since then, that's changed. But the point, sorry, this is just that these companies are really adapting all the time and improving all the time in ways that, yeah, it really is revolutionizing learning, teaching and learning.
I was going to ask you is, say 5-10 years from now, where do you see AI and where do you see yourself positioned in ed tech for AI?
Well, there's been also another thing, like I said at the beginning, about a lot of teacher burnout and quitting. Like when teaching is good, like I love it. When behavior stuff is challenging to deal with, the workload. But yeah, so AI has really helped that. So I'm not one of those. There's some teachers on Instagram who, they're doing different side things or starting different things because they kind of, it's like an exit plan or strategy, and no
For
judgment if that's the
transition.
case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, or they see themselves doing other things. But for me, like I love teaching so much. For example, I've never been someone who's like, oh yeah, I want to be a vice principal or principal one day. Because then I wouldn't, some people who get into admin, they, have had enough teaching or whatever. But for me, the point is I really
So
love
called, you like
teaching.
to be in the trenches.
Yeah. However,
Too
what
soon? Okay, sorry.
no, that's always a tough transition. However, having said that, no. But what I have noticed that I've really loved and has brought even more joy back for teaching is teaching my colleagues
Uh,
about AI, because it's just so fun to see their eyes light up when they realize, wow, I was slaving 5 hours on Sunday to do something that I could have expedited using AI. I could have given better feedback to my students. I could have spent more time with my students in class face to face.
I could spend time with my family at home. I can do the things I want to do. I can go for a hike. I can,
Yes.
paddleboard. It's also quality of life. I think,
Yeah.
we've got to update that and change that for teachers and for humans as well. And I think if we start doing that now, like I said, 5 years from now, I think there's going to be a whole shift in this vibe and even the way kids are learning today.
Yeah.
Not everyone's black and white, and that. Some people struggle with certain things. Well, guess what?
Hmm.
Soon, I think AI will be able to kind of create a package or some sort of a course curriculum for that individual at their pace. So at the
Yes.
end of the day, did they graduate? Yes. Are they able to do what they can do? Are they competent?
Hmm.
Yes. And great. They just had a different path.
Yeah. Totally. And that's like, I'm reading this book and been part of a book club over the last just the past 6 weeks or so. And it's about universal design for learning, which I've been really into. It's like, providing choice, voice, letting students represent their learning in different ways. And so this book, it's by a couple of leaders in EdTech. And UDL, but it's Katie Novak is the UDL expert, and then the blended learning expert they have is Catlin Tucker. So she's another leader in EdTech as well. She does a lot of stuff for her PhD was in asynchronous learning, but basically her main thesis of this book is that you know in 2024, like if you or I want to learn about something, anything, we can do it, and we can go online and we can do it at our own pace. So basically what she's
That's
saying
cool.
is, right, is that why a lot of students, and this isn't always the case, but just saying that behavior or lack of engagement, it could be because in the class, like we're going in and we teachers and we've been taught, okay, this is the agenda for today. We're going to do this for 10 minutes, then we're going to do that for 15, then we're going to do, and so a lot of students, that's why they're getting bored or frustrated or
Mhm.
disengaged, because they're like, I don't want to do that right now to learn about this subject. I want to do that. So it's kind of like all coming together for me, like ways that I can let students control the pace of it more, and it makes more sense, right? But it is hard to execute, and I'm like trying the system out in a couple of classes right now where I have groups of students who are at different levels or want to like, but it can, anyways.
You can do things like that, and now it just starts clicking for that person,
Right.
and it just AI can do those things. It's give
Mhm.
me an idea. My son likes this, or my daughter likes this, or my student likes this. How can I help them learn better?
That's right. And so like AI's powers to be able to personalize learning and help teachers, help students control the pace of their learning and how they show their learning, like it's unparalleled. So I also think that's the way of the future. Like students come in and it could be, teachers still do like a mini lesson on something, but also
Absolutely.
but like attention span is another huge factor. Like,
Scroll, scroll, scroll. Right? We're
yeah.
just so quick.
Exactly. Like, so to expect students to sit there and listen to you just talk for, even if you have a beautiful
Yeah.
presentation, like I love the presentations, but a lot of times I try to go through them like very, long enough that they understand. But I'm also like, these are available if you want to look at them again. On like most teachers have we all have blended learning now, pretty much. Like everybody has a Google Classroom or a Moodle or some other learning management system. So yeah, like, and there's so many reasons why students might be away and have good reasons, and other things like that. So students end up having to learn some things on their own as well. So I think AI can help empower students to realize like, hey, I can teach myself some of these things. Like I need maybe a mentor, but that's kind of more, I think the role of an educator is going to be going forward, is that guide. Like, I'm here to help you, and I'll do some quick mini lessons with you on whatever we all need as a class that could help everybody. But ultimately, and so something that from this, I've had in this one class, I've had students come up with learning goals. Like, everybody has 3 learning goals, but it has to meet under the umbrella of like the BC curriculum for that subject.
All right.
And then they'll have practice for or time to independently choose how they're going to learn it, whether that's reading, writing, listening, or speaking activities. So yeah, it's cool, and before AI, like, I might have been overwhelmed by how much time something like that is going to take to execute.
And I was going to ask is how long though? Like, how much time are you saving, give or take?
Now, like, there's certain tasks that, I would say at least I'm saving 10 to 15 hours per week compared to what I used to do. Oh yeah. Depending on the time of year. Like, because we have times of year that are particularly busy. Yeah. Like right now on Instagram, there's things about like the clock changing, parent teacher interviews. Well, we did ours a while ago, but yeah, like coming up to term, like midterm, all the grading, marking, feedback, like all of those tasks that before could take me like a solid Sunday, or at least a solid couple hours after work every day for a whole week. I'm able to do in an hour, or like, yeah.
So it's all compounding. It's just banking these hours back that you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I bet you with those hours, you're so used to it that now you're applying it to AI and you're like, let's learn more.
Yeah.
But it's great, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, and I'll see things like, oh, you got to try this prompt on AI. Like, I did that on, I think it was Friday. Like, I came across this, oh, try this prompt. And it was something like, based on everything you know about me so far.
Oh yes.
One of those. And then
the trending one, right?
Where do I rank? It might be that one. Where do you rank in the top users or whatever? So then it was interesting because the first prompt, ChatGPT misunderstood me, and I'm like, no. And then it was like, oh yes. And then it was telling me about things, and I'm like, well, I want to get better at prompting. I want to get better at using AI. Like, what can I do? And it was like this big list. And then I went to a deep dark hole doing that. And I remember my sister, she was like, oh, I need to write this email for like, and she knows I have the pro account
version, yeah,
on ChatGPT. So I was like, all right, one sec. And I went to open ChatGPT, and I had just set up that day, because how voice has come out. Have you tried that yet?
It's incredible.
That's amazing.
Like, I love it. Is it like where they're talking to you and having the convo, or just the voice where you, yeah.
Like at first I've been doing the voice to text thing for a while with it. Like we all have like on our phone anyways through Apple, but they did bring about the voice capabilities, but then they kind of like got you to pick a voice and stuff. And anyways, but my sister was just like amazed by it. And, but like to a Friday night, I'm like, I don't want to sit there and like type. So it was like really nice. And then I had seen like a video about a girl like getting the voice to like take on different characters, like, or emotions, like, can you act really anxious? Or, okay, I can. And so we were just playing around with that, or like, tell us how to say things in Gen Z slang, like that a millennial would say. Funny. And so I want to make a couple of reels out of them, but we're like in our pajamas, just goofing around.
You totally should. Yeah, this is lit, or this is fire, or whatever they're using.
Yeah, it was doing that. Like, I was like, how do I tell somebody in Gen Z that they're having their outfit's really nice? And it was just like, yeah, like, oh, it was so good.
With looking forward though, 5 years from now, where do you see yourself?
5 years.
That was me. I can talk about this forever with AI. So
I know, it's like, I don't know, because we don't know where it's going to take us, but I hope that I can create some more opportunities for teaching my colleagues, because like in bigger groups and in workshops, because that's where the magic happens. Like, for example, when I did a workshop with my colleagues on report card writing comments last year, like, I was showing them how to do it and how I've been doing it. And then like somebody in the workshop was like, oh, hey, I just tried this. And I was like, that's mind blowing. Like, I never even thought of doing that. And now I do that all the time. Like, so the point is, it's like when you get a group of professionals, together, like a group of people's minds is better than others. So I constantly learn from them. But yeah, like I said, I still have that like core group at school who we like, constantly are telling each other different ways that we've tried it. But yeah, so like I do hope that I can that becomes part of my teaching career as well as teaching my colleagues. So yeah, that's like why I want to share what I'm learning on Instagram.
And where do you see the future for AI in ed tech overall? Will we see, hopefully, there's an adoption of this technology
Yeah.
and it's utilized on a broader scale?
Well, I think there is a bit of back to basics as well happening at the same time. Like, for example, teachers will tell you that their students' writing is really difficult to read, like their actual scribing writing. Reading skills are lagging behind. Like, students are reading at lower grade levels than where they are at and where they should be at than in the past. So I do think there will be a little bit of, while EdTech is advancing and teachers will be tapping into that more. I think too, what I love about AI is it will give me ideas for doing things without tech, like, right? It'll like give me discussion questions about X, give me a warm-up activity, give me a partner speaking activity, like, and so we don't do that with computers. Like, and there is a move away, like there's a backlash right now against phones in class, right? Like,
Yes.
provinces across the country have announced that, they won't have, phones are still there. We're still using them because we have to, because most schools, public schools, we don't have Chromebooks for everybody. So until we have Chromebooks for everybody, right? We have students who need voice to text technology for different reasons. We have neurodivergent students. We have, students that need noise canceling, or they need, or diabetics who need their phone to have, like, it's just, and I know there's always exceptions and things, but I have appreciated the messaging about putting phones away, because honestly, that was a big frustration over the last few years. And I think a big reason a lot of teachers are getting fed up is because it's just fighting with that, dopamine machine that, we just cannot compete with that. So I think there is a movement towards like getting kids away from the technology and the screen time as well. But like, that's another myth too, is that AI is going to give students more screen time. But I think if AI is being used well by parents and educators, like it will actually give ways for students to reduce their screen time as well. So yeah, I think it's just a really exciting time.
Before we get going here, how can someone get in touch with you? How can someone, start utilizing AI if they're a teacher out there anywhere, actually? Because you do things virtually as well, or is it only in
Yeah.
person?
Oh yeah, no, virtually. I've done some workshops through Instagram, through um, Google Meet. Like I have that. So yeah, definitely can reach me at my email. It's Deirdre at KennedyAIforall.com or through Instagram. But yeah, definitely reach out. I love helping teachers. Like, even if it's just sometimes they just have a quick question, or like something they're curious about. But that's why I've been trying to make like free resources that are good for like diving in points. Cause that's what, when I went to the workshop, taught my colleagues a couple of Fridays ago, that's what really stood out to me is like, I would say, how many of you have used, this app, AI app? And it was like, like one or two people
Yeah.
or zero. And I was just like, no, like we got to change this. So, yeah, like, just so excited to share what I know, but also the fact that like I'm still always learning as well. But yeah, I'm gonna be like, like I said, I'm teaching 4 to 4 blocks right now. So sometimes like timing wise, I'm like, when to do workshops and things like that online. Is like, oh, what should we do? But I'm just gonna start hosting them more, or like I'm thinking I should probably go live more and just be like, I'm going to talk about this. But so I've gone live in the past, and then it was like 1 or 2 people are there, and you're like, okay, well, but you can
You're
just
like,
choose to
hey
add it to
sister,
your,
hey sister,
yeah.
hey cousin.
I know, right? So but workshops can be good because teachers might want to hop on for
Right.
half an hour or
Absolutely.
whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, just trying to put
No,
together.
it's super cool. And we'll have to definitely do a couple more of these, and maybe we can break down a few things. That'd be neat to do, is find a topic and then just go through it and dive through it. That would be fun one day.
Yeah, totally. Like a topic as far as like something to do with.
a tool even, and we'll just like decipher it
yeah.
almost. Like, what can you do with tools? And here's one tool, because there's so many, and
I
you
love
can
that.
start drowning in them. And then you start screenshotting them and saving them, and then you're like, I don't know which one it was.
That's the other thing. Like, recently I put together, it was for that Pro D workshop, and I was like, I'll just put together a few tools that I use on a Padlet. So, Padlet is really, have you tried Padlet before?
No,
Oh, check it out. It's really cool. So it makes like
sorry,
a
Padlit.
Padlet.
Oh, Padlet. Okay,
It's super cool.
visual
So
collaboration. Okay.
yeah, and people can post on things
Oh, that is
on things that
cool.
you post, but it ends up like
Right.
I can share with you the one that I made for education. But yeah, like there on one hand you want to like show everybody all the tools that are out there, but then I was also mindful of like I don't want to overwhelm people. So for that workshop I focused on, maybe 6 or 7 and 3 main ones. But yeah, there's just so many, but I categorize them on that Padlet to be like fact checking apps, differentiation, translation, reading apps, presentation, Canva, things like that. So yeah, I can send that to you, but
Please
I know
do.
what you
That'd be
mean
really
about
cool to see.
tools. Yeah.
Well, I mean, especially for us that are constantly looking at these different tools, and it can get overwhelming. Some of them, you're just like, well,
Yeah.
what's the point of all this? Like, why do I need this tool?
Yeah.
Well, especially when it comes to the visual arts ones, there's so many of them.
Yeah.
Like, here's image to video, image to video. I'm like, oh my God, there's like 30 of them.
Yeah, like that's my advice is like start small, just pick a few
Exactly.
things. But that's why I'm kind of like, I noticed too on Instagram people are like, I have an AI app for you. And it's not ChatGPT. Like ChatGPT is so like
Mm,
basic and stuff. But I'm like, when I talk to colleagues, I'm like, just stick with ChatGPT for a while. And like, because
totally.
everything, the other apps help to bring things to life visually or gamified ways with students and things. But I was like, for you, if you want to get good at, because there was a time before I shared AI with students because I wanted to get confident in enough, etc. But that's my big message right now to teachers who haven't tried it is like, just get decent at ChatGPT. Just play around with it. Anytime you have an idea or something that you want to bring to life, but you can't quite figure out how to do it in class or with your classes, like just start typing and just see. And
Start asking little
so go
questions
back.
here and there, and it is so fun. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, like,
And I'm so happy I met you, a like-minded person doing it. And I was like, what? A teacher's doing this? This is super cool. Because again, it's that irony, right? Oh, the cheating and
yeah.
the taboo topic. But I love it. I love that you're breaking these barriers. So thank you for
Thank
that.
you. And thanks so much for having me. This was really fun.